Hey folks, this is Rebel Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Tornado Tony Pennicow.
And Psychic Tom Paget. A new year and lots to predict.
Yes, and I don't know if we can really, without homework, do a decade in review show, but we can definitely look back at this year. I can tell you hands down my favorite two fights, MMA and boxing from this year, and they're fairly recent ones. Of course, boxing, you have to go with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury 1. And then
yes.
MMA, I really like the Rosenstruck versus Overeem last second knockout. It might not have been monumental for the sport or anything like that, or crazy title belt changing hands, but what unbelievable set of
I gotta throw a monkey wrench into your boxing pick for the year.
Okay, do it.
That was December 1st of last year.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I was working the tree lot. And then I had a banquet to work that night, and I didn't get home in time to order the fight, so I had to follow it on a blog, and that's where I remember following it on the blog. And it was like, Fury's outboxing him, Fury's doing this, Fury's doing that. It was 6 rounds. Fury goes down. Holy shit. Fury's up. Fury's kicking his ass again. Fury's down, and he looks to be out cold. Oh my God, he's up again. And he's winning. And then it's a draw. But yeah, so, sorry. You want to make it a 13-month, Baker's dozen. That counts.
Well, I think we could go to last June.
Not doing your homework.
There was an interesting heavyweight fight last June that I think could be a good substitute.
Reeves versus Joshua.
You guys know?
Yeah,
yes, sir.
big time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That would have been my choice.
It's funny you say that. I was having a talk yesterday, or Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday, New Year's Eve. I was talking to a couple of guys, we were, just talking some boxing and stuff like that, and we were speaking to Andy Ruiz, and one thing I said was like, the gentleman and I, because he's a little bit older than me, maybe about like 10 years, he's probably early 50s, and he always talking about growing up and really getting into boxing when it was the Fab Four back in the early 80s. Leonard, Duran, Hearns, and Hagler. Then you had other great fighters in there like, Benitez, and, so you had some tough guys in there like Mugabe, and, just an all-around, fabulous era. All weight divisions back then too, Tony. Yeah, so many exciting weight divisions. Just pick a division, it was full of excitement from bantamweight all the way up to heavyweight. So we were talking a little bit about that, and then as we were talking about the Ruiz Joshua fight, and we kind of likened it a little bit to Buster Douglas and Mike Tyson, not just because of the monumental upset, but you look at it in a side-by-side comparison. Buster Douglas was a very talented fighter who never would live up to his potential. He had a reputation of not being in shape. He had a reputation of being lazy. He had a reputation of, not giving the best efforts out there. And his fight with Tony Tucker, I believe they're fighting for a vacant title, or Tucker might have had the title, and Douglas challenged for it. I think it was vacant. And Douglas was winning the fight, and he ran out of gas, and he basically pulled a no mas. And it really hurt him. So then he gets this fight with Mike Tyson, and we had the motivation of his mother passing away, and he just puts in this Herculean effort. He comes in shape. He comes in motivated. He comes in focused. And he caught Mike Tyson on, and I don't want to say an off night, but a very ill-prepared Mike Tyson. A Mike Tyson that spent more time doing publicity. Mike Tyson that got knocked down in sparring by Greg Page. Mike Tyson that was, overconfident. overconfident, not in shape, a lot. Buster Douglas puts together the perfect effort, overcomes a knockdown, and then scores this amazing knockout. And he's on top of the world, and then 6 months later, or 8 months later, he's fighting Evander Holyfield in his first title defense, and he comes in grossly out of shape. He didn't look like he trained. He looked unmotivated again, and he gets, starched. He gets knocked out. Now you take Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz is a guy, has a reputation of being lazy, has a reputation of not being in shape, has a reputation of being overweight, has a reputation of not putting his best effort forth, gets this fight with Anthony Joshua. Joshua, who was knocked down in sparring. Joshua, who maybe didn't take the fight seriously, maybe came in, not focused. His big first fight in the United States of America, fighting in D.C., or not Madison Square Garden, MSG. Big deal, right? So he scores the knockdown. Ruiz goes down. Ruiz gets up, and he puts together this Herculean, focused, motivated effort. He wins the title by knockout, and then the rematch, he comes in grossly out of shape, untrained, unfocused, unmotivated, living off the laurels, enjoying the money, enjoying the fame, enjoying the riches. He didn't get knocked out like Douglas did, but, he may actually made a worse account of himself than Buster.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, it was just all the hype leading up to it. It was just a very big disappointment. I thought it would be a way better fight, and the lengths they went to have it in a special venue, and the contract negotiations. Yeah, but that's what happens. That's what happens when money and enough that you don't feel like you have to really work hard. You just do what you want. It changes people sometimes when they've never had it. So,
and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't. Think about that. I mean, Holyfield, when he came into the money, I don't remember him going to hell and coming in, 40 pounds overweight or anything like that. Evander Holyfield was always in shape. So weight he had.
Now,
it just depends.
We also had some good boxing matches last weekend. I watched Yuriorkis Gamboa and Gervonta Davis go to the closing round there. And Yuriorkis claims he was fighting on like a torn Achilles or something.
Yeah.
Some crazy injury. So I guess warrior spirit for him that he kept going. But they were translating him as saying, I can't continue, to the ref. To his corner. And his corner still didn't stop the fight. So it's kind of on them not to call it there and, make sure that got called a no contest.
And I agree with you on that, Rich. I was watching that fight, and
that's some bullshit.
You could see when he went down, he got up. He was definitely distressed.
Yeah.
And they thought, okay, and they thought maybe his shoe had split or something. Yeah. And that's what they thought it was. But he kept going, I can't walk. But, you're right. His corner did the wrong thing, by pushing him out there. And maybe he didn't communicate to them that he was seriously hurt, because remember, we can't understand what he's saying if he's speaking in Spanish. We could just see he's saying, like, I can't walk, but does that mean because of the shoe or an injury? We couldn't tell, and we don't know what, the full, transcript of what he's saying, only what the interpreter would say. The referee, same thing, so I think there was poor communication in there. But what sticks out to me more than anything, two things. Gamboa's hard. For going, I think, what was it, like 10 rounds after that? Yeah. What was the stoppage? Was it the 10th or the 12th? I don't remember.
12th round. Final round.
12th, final round. Yeah. And Gamboa, a lot of people were thinking he was going to get, blown out of the fight. Talented fighter, but 38 years old, above his best weight, past his prime. They were like, he's, maybe he's too washed up to be in there. And they were figuring Tank Davis would just do that, steamroll him. And it didn't happen that way. He won, but, against an injured, over-the-hill opponent, maybe he wasn't as good as advertised. And now they were talking about he's trying to, get a big fight. He moved up in weight, so now he's a weight class above Tevin Farmer out of Philadelphia. He's a weight class above him, but that fight still could happen. But he's trying to get a guy like Lomachenko in there. He would get a great payday for that, but I think he would take a tremendous beating in that fight. And I think he would retire on his stool after about 6 rounds of, really looking bad and really, taking punishment. Like, one of those ones where you just take a sustained beating, that maybe you don't recover from.
Yeah. Well, Yorkis, I think his biggest problem is he has zero defense. When he wades in, he just hands down, face out. It's just, I don't know who taught him how to box, but I mean, he's got good form. He knows how to punch, but he just has shitty defense. And, it's, I like to blame Floyd Mayweather a lot and the guys who love to up jab by starting at their knees, And you can do that if you have Roy Jones Jr. head movement or Floyd Mayweather's shoulder roll. But you can't do that and do it like traditional boxing training behind it. No. You cannot be a stationary target and do that. You have to be mobile in the head, mobile in the shoulders, mobile in the hips, everything. So I think that's Yorkis' biggest downfall is that he just stands there when he's trying to trade and he lets the guy hit him. So every time he was making progress, Gervonta was able to counter enough to just say, "Oh, hey, slow your roll, back up."
Yeah.
So.
Well, you know what? Talking about the fighters like that, and we've said this before in the air. Every era, every generation has a fighter that a lot of young fighters like to emulate. Because they are the best in the world, and a lot of times they are maybe the most charismatic in the world. They really open your eyes. Back in the 60s and into the 70s, it was Muhammad Ali. Yeah. He did things that was so awesome, and it was so breathtaking. But you can't do those things if you're not Muhammad Ali. If you don't have that speed, you don't have those reflexes, you don't maybe have his chin or things like that. In the 80s, it was Sugar Ray Leonard. Then you had Mike Tyson, then you had Roy Jones and Floyd Mayweather, because these guys were so spectacular.
Guys, the thing is, you can pick certain things from them and show people how to do them, but you cannot replicate that style.
Right. And they were so spectacular.
You do everything else they do.
And they were so naturally athletic. They could get away with a lot of these things. And I remember 2 guys that worked at the same gym. I won't mention any names. I know them both personally. 2 guys worked out at the same gym. And they had a little bit of maybe a beef with each other, and I think it was because they had a mutual trainer, and then the one had a falling out with the trainer, so on and so forth. The one fighter was immensely more talented. He was a more established professional, and he had a fight on ESPN one night, and he was winning. And he did a Floyd Mayweather-esque move where he had his hands down, he did a pivot and kind of pulled straight back, but, he didn't have the exact, style and defense that Floyd had. And when he did that pullback, the guy threw a looping left hook, caught him on the chin, knocked him down. A round later, he finished the show, and he scored a knockout. So the other fighter that he had the beef with, the lesser quality fighter, went on social media that night, and he goes, "If you ain't Floyd, don't be trying his shit."
Exactly.
And like I said, I don't know if that ever got resolved in the gym, and it very well may have, but that was definitely,
The other famous Tony I know, Tony Petronelli. I'll never forget training with him at Goody Petronelli's gym one day. And bouncing around the ring, on my toes, and he says, "Cut the shit, Rich. You're not fucking Muhammad Ali. Stop bouncing around."
Yeah.
So,
well,
you're wasting energy.
I'll tell you what's funny was similar up at Lock Haven, with Dr. Cox. And Dr. Cox, he would, I didn't get that high pitch, "God damn
damn it, what the hell are you doing in there, Pentagon? And, and he would always say to me, oh, Christ, I see your boy Pazienza must have been fighting on TV last night because you're doing all that bolo and dancing and crazy shit again.
I can totally see that. Totally. Well, anyway, we also had...
Let me ask this before I forget. What did you guys think of the main co-feature between Badu Jack
That's what I was just going to start
Pascal?
talking about. I didn't see a lot of it, but it was not a fight where Badu Jack was expected to lose. He's the home card guy. He's the Mayweather Promotions dude. So
Yeah, it kind of surprised me.
that was definitely a bad day for Badu. And Pascal obviously is championship caliber. He's had the belt before, so
Oh, yeah.
he knows
I'll
what he's
tell
doing
you.
there. Back to
I'll
form.
tell you.
It looks very good.
Watching that fight, you're right. Pascal was winning the earlier rounds. Badu Jack started turning around mid-rounds. Pascal early, I thought his chin, was the difference because they were both landing some good shots, but Pascal landed that looping overhand right, caught Badu Jack on the temple, had him do like this funky dance, around the ring, and then go down. And he was kind of lucky that it was at the end of the round because you could tell he was hurt.
Yeah,
30 more seconds, that fight might have been over in the fourth. And then Badu Jack started turning around, started landing some big shots. And then the final round, he really, the 12th round, had Pascal hurt. He ended up putting him down. And I thought it was enough to win. I thought the fight, the way the judges had it was one judge had it, I think two judges had it 114 to 112 for Pascal, which would have been then 7 rounds to 5, each of them losing a point on their respective knockdowns. And the other one had it 114 to 112 for Badu Jack, which is what I had it.
Right.
But some of those early rounds, Pascal was doing the Sugar Ray Leonard. He was rallying at the end. He was really bringing on combinations and trying to steal those rounds.
Yeah, I really didn't focus heavily on it. I was watching the main event more. But I did notice that Badu, every time I looked at him, he just looked like he was getting frustrated. He couldn't really put things together. He couldn't find his range. And Pascal was picking his spots and picking wisely most of the fight. But yeah, it was pretty intense. Now, before we get done with boxing, we definitely had to ask you if you've seen the highlights from the Harrison versus Charlo rematch at all yet.
I did not. I did not get to see the fight live that night. It was, I wanted to stay up, but I had been working so much, my body finally said, you have to crash.
So you know what happened anyway.
From what I heard was that Harrison was boxing well. He was ahead on the cards, but Charlo caught up to him.
Not only caught up to him, but Tony Harrison decided to be a clown for a minute and started clowning around, dropping his hands, laughing, taunting. And then next thing you know, the fucking announcers are like, oh, this guy is not aggressive enough. He should have just pounced on him. But like a minute later, he takes it like he just listened to them and just starts wading in. And,
that was good.
I had a little bit of a rant about it last week on the show, but I was waiting for you to get on. It was basically like he got punked, He was acting like a punk, and then he got punked himself. But he was just doing that thing where, he's like, oh, you don't hurt me, because Charlo came in and landed a few bombs, but they were all blocked. So Tony Harrison drops his hand and does that, yeah, right, whatever. And then, like, minutes later, he's out. He's done. So, yeah, that was one of those.
It reminds me of a fighter named Nate Campbell, who was a world champion at 130 pounds back about 12 or 13 years ago. He was fighting a guy named Robbie Peden, and he was beating Peden, and he actually dropped his hand, and he tapped himself on the chin, and he said, take your best shot. And Peden didn't knock him out.
Yeah. Unreal sometimes. And of course, the fight that I got to hang around Mayweather's gym and watch him work out, and I got to ask him my favorite question: "What do you love most about boxing?" He said everything. Was the Ortiz fight, which ended in the weirdest fashion possible, with the crazy knockout, when it was like almost like $1 Million Baby, with the number one rule, always protect yourself.
Yep.
Protect yourself at all times.
Protect yourself at all times.
So, it's crazy stuff. That was a nutty one. Anyway. So, we also had Lionel Thompson losing to Jose Uzcategui last Saturday.
No, I thought Thompson won that fight.
Oh yeah, Thompson won the fight. Sorry. It says Jose Uzcategui lost to Lionel Thompson. Okay. So, this week coming up, we really have nothing major to talk about, believe it or not. The one fight BoxRec says is important this week is Leonardo Fabio Amatrano versus Juan Jose Velasco. And none of these guys have I ever heard of. I don't know, Velasco sounds familiar, but I don't have the records in front of me. But next Friday is a big day. Next Friday and Saturday we have a couple big ones. Namely, a female fight between Claressa Shields and Ivana Habazin, which was supposed to go down earlier, but there was a little incident at the weigh-in. It's a tiny criminal act.
Yeah.
Put a little dent in
You know
the
what?
proceedings.
It's funny. As talented as a fighter as she is, I've never met her personally. I saw her in Vegas last year at the fight fan convention, but I did not communicate with her. They had like a makeshift ring there, and she had got in it. But I've heard negative things about her as a person. Not very fan-friendly attitude. And this comes from guys like Iceman John Scully.
Yeah. Well,
So he's had some very negative things to say about it.
She definitely could have that chip on her shoulder attitude for sure. It's a tough gig. I mean, like, remember when we had John Scully on versus the Ken Shamrock with the debate?
Yeah.
The first time when they really were going at it about women. It's that type of mentality these women are facing a lot from male promoters, and that's why she is actually talking more and more about going over to the UFC immediately, almost, whether it's being boxing or doing MMA. She's pretty much ready to do it. She's met and talked and appeared with Dana White at events. So she really is like that overconfident type person because she feels like she's already mastered the game. Even though she's very young in her professional career. This could be that one wake-up call opponent, though. This girl has grudge now, so that could be a dangerous thing in this situation. A lot of times we talk about it being not so dangerous, but yeah, it could be bad. It could be very bad. Hang on one second. All right, folks, a little technical difficulty there. We're back now and rock and rolling. And we got a lot to cover. We got the big MMA fights, too, we didn't get to. But I was in the middle of talking about Ivana Habazin and Claressa Shields when we cut out. And that's a big fight coming up next Friday. And basically, it's a grudge match, like I said. She's coming in, Ivana, after the beef at the weigh-in. Her trainer got almost taken out of this world, never mind, being able to fight or do the cornering. He pretty much could have been killed. I mean, landed right on a cement floor.
Yeah.
So it was a bad scene, to say the least. But now they're going to do the rematch here. Or not the rematch, but the first fight. And this could be a big wake-up call for Claressa if she doesn't take it seriously and come at this with her best game. And it could be a situation where, all that drama and hype actually helps the person who's the aggressor because of it. It just fuels them. It makes them that more devastating. So I would be definitely hands up going into this one if I was Clarissa Shields.
Yeah, right.
Also, Saturday the 11th, we got a couple big fights on BoxRec here. Jamie Munguia fighting Gary Spike O'Sullivan. And Jesse
That'll be a good fight to watch.
Yeah, a couple of scrappers right
Spike
there.
is tough. No, he's tough. And then Munguia, he's a puncher's puncher.
Yeah.
So you figure Munguia's got to be the A side of this fight, but, Spike's going to come out there and he's going to make it a tough affair until he gets caught.
Spike. Jesse Hart fighting Joe Smith Jr. as well, and I saw some pictures of Joe Smith Jr. on Facebook. He looks like he is preparing like a monster. Getting ready.
Yeah, and you figure this is a grudge match because Smith is the one that ended Bernard Hopkins' career, knocking him out of the ring, and Jesse Hart has been basically a protege of B-Hop for years. I have a picture of them together and in South Philly a couple years ago with the fights. So now he's going out to avenge his mentor.
Awesome. Well, grudge matches all around next couple of weeks. So we'll talk more in depth about that next week because that's I've got a whole nother week before that happens. We also have the Professional Fight League going on. Their championships. The 2009 championships have begun. Their playoffs already happened, and now it's the final championships for the $1 million. We also had some Bellator events. Rampage Jackson coming in barely under the 260 limit. It didn't fare well for him against Fedor Emelianenko. And Fedor is claiming he has a few more fights in him. So, definitely looking forward to who they match him up with next. But Rampage did not look so fantabulous out there. He fared about as well as what's his name? Chael Sonnen did against the Fedor right hand. Not so well. I don't know. I don't care how old you are. That guy throws his right hand at you. If he connects full force, man, pretty much over. You still got Tom with us? We lose him.
I hear him.
We lost Tom. I was like, I'm talking MMA and I don't hear Tom. Something is off. Connecting. Anyway, how the heck did I get to there? Alright, I got it all screwed up here. So, Fedor and Quinton. That was a first round knockout. 2 minutes and 44 seconds into that one. And let's see. We had also Michael Chandler beating Sidney Outlaw, also in the first round. Not too far off. 2 minutes and 59 seconds, but this one was a straight knockout.
All right.
There's Tom. Where did we lose you?
All of a sudden, just went out.
Oh, all right. Well, I was just talking about Fedor's right hand, and I was like, well, Tom's not piping in, so something's wrong.
Yeah, things just went. Yeah, Rampage at 260.
Yeah.
265. I think he actually had to lose to come down in weight. Gotta wonder. A lot of talk about that one.
So Fedor's right hand strikes again, and it was an impressive knockout. I mean, Quentin was not getting up. He was not protesting. And he got cut, too. He got cut somewhere. So.
Yeah, and Fedor said this was it for him. And hopefully he'll go out on top.
I don't know. I read somewhere that he was thinking about other fights, but maybe you heard different.
Oh, really? Yeah, well, in the cage, he said that was going to be it. But,
okay.
Where have we heard that before?
Right. Which is one of the New Year's stories we're going to have to talk about before we close out the show with what the hell is Floyd Mayweather going to be up to this year. But anyway, Michael Chandler also got a win over Sydney Outlaw. I was just talking about that. First round knockout, 2 minutes and 59 seconds in. He looks very decent, very put together, and Outlaw, despite his name, didn't look really that dangerous.
What a cool name.
Yeah. Especially if you're from Sydney, Australia. Sydney Outlaw. Also, Michael Venom Page lived up to his name. Also got the knockout 23 seconds into the second round over Shinsho Anzai, who looked pretty decent. I mean, he was hanging in there, and then Page just turned it right around. For that, Lorenz Larkin beating Kita Nakamura by unanimous decision.
Okay, now stop. Stop right there. You notice how Bellator will always give us these, no disrespect intended, but some of these are kind of preordained fights.
Yeah, basically.
Almost mismatches. Now,
Japan,
what is wrong?
What we said last week, we got to watch out for the works.
Yeah, so what is wrong with Michael Page going up against Larkin?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess
it would be nice to see that, because Michael Page now has officially picked up a nickname, the Can Crusher.
Like Reggie Johnson used to say, guys from the bus stop. I don't know. They're putting him up against cab drivers and guys from the bus stop.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a different world over in Bellator, I've noticed. It's really a small pond, unfortunately. So you have to keep building up the big fish in the small pond, and that's
well. How many years? But how many years does it take? Let's get it going.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's ridiculous. Anyway, there was another Bellator event. I don't have it right in front of me. I think it was the night before or the same night, different venue. They're doing too much shit at once.
I think it was the night after.
Night after, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, as far as upcoming stuff, what do we have? Professional Fighters League we're going to get to. We just had that the other night, December 31st, New Year's Eve. We had Kayla Harrison moving to 8-0 over Larissa Pacheco, who falls to 13-5. Ray Cooper III beating David Mashad by TKO, 2 minutes and 56 seconds into the second round. Old heavyweights here, Ali Isaev beating Jared Rasholt by TKO, 4 minutes and 9 seconds into the fourth round. It's a long heavyweight fight. Nathan Schulte beating Loic Radzahabov by unanimous decision. Lance Palmer over Alex Gilpin by UD. Emiliano Sordi beating Jordan Johnson by TKO. 2 minutes and 1 second into the first round. And then first fight of the night, Brendan Lonane beating David Alex Duarte by unanimous decision. But boy, Kayla Harrison, oh, she is crazy good. Crazy good.
A beast. Just a beast. A technical beast.
Mowing people.
Strong and good technique. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing her face some really stiff competition in the future. That stuff is good to see. Now, the big Floyd question. We got to talk about that because supposedly he's promised the UFC he's going to be doing something with them in this coming 2020 year. Also, he's gone out and said, we've talked about it on the show, he's only going to be doing exhibitions. His fight career is done. So, what does that mean? As if he's done a deal to fight, and there's just going to be exhibitions? Is it going to be boxing exhibitions? Is he actually going to try MMA in any fashion? I doubt it. But
yeah, that should be doubtful. It'd be a big mistake.
Zuffa Boxing is supposedly making all these plans, and I've criticized it to the cows come home. But it's just so hard to imagine them actually pulling it off. Especially now that you've got so many defectors that are coming to the end of their contract and they're like, fuck this place. These guys treat us like shit. So they go to these other smaller ponds, like I said. And so that's what I think they're waiting for, is for some of these UFC guys to come over and, to start becoming a bigger pond. And the UFC is starting to suffer from their corporate approach. Because they really have to make money now for all these investors. They got so many damn investors. They have to produce a return on the investment. So I think it's going to be even more strict on the contracts and more nitpicking on the expenses and all that with these fighters. And it's going to get to the point, if they keep needling these guys and girls and women, it's going to be Bellator and some of these other leagues like PFL starting to become the big ponds. The UFC is starting to shrink, so they're going to need something like the boxing. So this could be a do-or-die thing for them. If they don't get it done, they're going to look like idiots. But I've been calling them idiots for not getting it done already for a long time. But Floyd Mayweather and Al Heyman aligning with the UFC could be a big earth mover. That could be huge. I just don't see them ironing a deal out, or it would have already been done. But Floyd Mayweather,
well, yeah, you would think.
Did one.
You would think, but we've seen stranger things.
Yeah, Floyd Mayweather supposedly did one already, and I'll tell you, the only guy that visited Floyd Mayweather in jail significantly, regularly, was Al Heyman. So they're very good friends. They go way back, and that could be a big deal if Floyd connects with the UFC and does something significant with Zuffa Boxing, and he brings Al Heyman into the picture. You've got Mayweather Promotions and Al Heyman, premier boxing champions. So that could be like a coup over boxing. And then you have the real possibility of Floyd saying, screw retirement, I'll come back and do a real boxing match with any one of your UFC fighters. Anybody would buy that ticket, even if it's not a mismatch, and even if Floyd kills him. So, not literally kills him, of course, not talking about that. But yeah, I think it's an exciting development. It's just, what level is this deal? We don't know what the details of the deal are, but is it an exhibition deal or is it a real fight deal? It doesn't surprise me that he turned his fucking completely around his promise to retire. That's classic Floyd. For some reason, I stumbled across one of Floyd's daughters the other day on Facebook ranting and raving about how people are criticizing her for not having her own cars and renting vehicles and clothes and jewelry. She wanted to make it very clear that's her own stuff. Her dad might have given it to her, but that's her own stuff. It's funny. Floyd likes to spend his money. That's the other thing. So you kind of always have to expect that he's going to be doing some kind of a hype-up event to either give attention to his brand or put more big paycheck money into his pocket. And there's nothing like a huge event to generate a big paycheck. But that's kind of my perspective on it, because I feel like Floyd would only take a fight now professionally if it would be against somebody that he would be almost guaranteed to beat, like an MMA fighter who's only doing it for his first time. That's
so you don't think he's going to allow Canelo to get the rematch? Huh?
No, I don't see that.
I agree.
Canelo competing at light heavyweight, I really can't see it either. And
Canelo's a GAZN guy anyway.
In 7 years,
so it's not going to happen. You know, if he was a PBC guy, yeah. But the only deal that the UFC is even being rumored to be possibly making is with PBC and Floyd. So yeah, Canelo is off limits basically. Unless they want to co-promote, you know, and just doing boxing is co-promotion enough. It's going to be a big enough struggle. But as far as anything happening in 2020, I mean, that's now or never. I mean, if it doesn't happen by the end of this year, I think you're going to hear them start to say, yeah, Zuffa Boxing, we thought about it, but we can't make any deals with the boxing people because they don't like our contracts. That's probably what's killing it, you know, if you think about it. Like, who in boxing would be like, yeah, I'll take that UFC contract? And, you know, how are they going to have the control over them that they have over their own fighters if they don't have contracts like that? That they'll have to do it all through PBC. That's why I think they want to get a hold of it. But that's how they do business. If they're not in control, they don't want any part of it, so they're going to try to buy PBC outright. I don't think Al Heyman wants to sell it and not be in control of it. You know? So it's going to be interesting to see how that all irons out. But I love the idea, the general idea of having all these MMA fighters start to fight boxers. Because that would be the debate we did like 10 years ago now. I mean, more than 10 years ago.
yeah,
Come to life. That would be some shit, you know? Because we've solved the debate, sort of the back and forth, you know. We have yet to have that one event where there's a boxing match and an MMA fight on the same night between the same fighters. That would really solve the debate once and for all. But, you know, you don't have guys that would be willing to do that these days. It would be tough to find anybody that would train for that. But other than that, you could do back and forth. I mean, I think if anybody would do it from the boxing side, it would probably be Mayweather. But it's a little too late in his career for him to try it. He would have had to start 10 years ago for it to be a reality. But he was one of the ones that everybody was calling out to do it years ago when the debate started. So it's kind of interesting that he became the first guy to invite an MMA fighter over and fight him in a boxing match that was of any big significance with a title. So I always thought after that, and you know, seeing how easily he cruised to victory, even though he did have like a couple difficult moments, he probably has it in the back of his mind, you know, if I'm going to come back, I got to have one like that. I got to have one that I can win. I know I can win. But who knows what that guy's got planned. Anyway, any year in review or look ahead perspective points from you guys before we wrap it up?
Oh, you know what? I mean, with boxing, which is, you know, was my focus. I mean, a couple of things that really stood out this year, where we had the up and down with the Andy Ruiz, Anthony Joshua thing. It was like the mountain got shifted, but then it went back right into place where it should have been. But was it maybe that fault line damaged? You know, is Joshua damaged goods now? Tyson Fury is really becoming a major superstar. The problem is he going to lose focus, trying to do too many things? Is he going to be like his namesake, Tyson? Because that's when Mike Tyson really started to, lose it, is when he tried to do too many things and too many appearances. Deontay Wilder, he's, had another win over King Kong Ortiz, and, now he's primed to have that rematch with Fury in a few months. So, I mean, you got Canelo, he's becoming like the next big superstar. Danny Jacobs is still out there, just had that big win. He's at 160. You have a slew of young, good fighters. Ryan Garcia, Virgil Ortiz. I mean, these are some exciting guys. You still got Terrence Crawford out there. You have some good fighters from top to bottom. Boxing is, you just hope.
It's not dying anymore, is it, Tony?
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not. It never has been. It just needs to get that mainstream coverage, and I think these apps are really helping it out. I was skeptical at first, but I mean, I think it's great. And it's becoming worldwide. I mean, you have fighters that are from other countries that are getting recognition in the United States. They're getting fan viewership in the United States. Manny Pacquiao is still out there. The future's bright. The future is bright. Let's just hope they get the coverage that it deserves.
Right. I don't have any of the ESPN Pluses or the DAZNs, but I have my streaming my streaming sites. That's every now and then you get a glitch, but hey, it's free. And I only tend to watch.
Rich, how about that one that I sent you? Did that work for you?
No, that Glory one. No, I tried linking up to that.
The problem for that particular one was I thought that the fight was in California. It was one of those split ones. They had part of the event in California, part of it was back in Amsterdam. So I think that had a lot to do with it, because that one's been fairly reliable for me.
Well, the one that has just about all the fights after the fact, you just Google MMA Fight Share. And it goes for boxing, too. If there's a big boxing match, they'll have that, too. They'll have the video. You got to, there's no pop-up ads to worry about, but you got to click on, 3 links to get to the video. And then they'll post a backup even, because they'll obviously have a copyright issue or something. And you might have to watch it with friggin' Spanish or Russian commentary, but it'll be there.
Oh, okay. So it's Fight Share?
MMA Fight Share. 3 different words.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
it's a great website.
Because this one I sense working good for me, but that could change tomorrow. Who knows?
It's not live though. It's all after the fact. They're on it.
Yeah.
But that's when I go.
Yeah,
when I the Tyson Fury fight with Deontay Wilder. That's why I watched it. It was all on there after the fact. So that is a great site to go to.
Yeah, because the one that I sent you, I was able to get the Ruiz rematch with Joshua.
Yeah,
and it came in real good. A little bit of streaming problems, but I understand you have that on even ESPN Plus and DAZN too. So a little bit of that, and the Covington fight was great until the last 2 minutes of round 5. No. Yeah, but it's been pretty good so far. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and even if Overeem versus Rosenstruck doesn't make your top 10 for the year, I'll tell you, it's definitely from my poll. It is the top injury of the year. From
it was no barn burner, put it that way. It was and there was drama, because you kept hearing about the power of this guy, and Overeem fought brilliant for 24 minutes and 50 seconds. What a freak ending! But I still have to go with Stipe getting the belt back.
Yeah, that was a
That
great
was
one.
number one for me.
That was a good one.
But I mean, yeah. And Overeem says he's going to be back. He feels it should. He had a few comments about the stoppage.
Well, it's one of those catch-22s, okay? I was talking about this with my friend today. Okay, this guy's lip is hanging off. You know, if you let him take one single punch after that, and his entire lip falls off, you know, and he can't get it sewn back on, you're talking lawsuit. You know? So, I mean, it was an instant, you know, second.
Well, I don't know. I don't know, though. I mean, really, do you think a lawsuit would fly?
I don't know.
I mean,
it would be bad.
I would have to.
It would be bad for the sport. Period. Bad for him health-wise. Bad for the sport. But
no, I understand that.
The fact that Overeem got up. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I love that he got up. I mean, that just shows how much heart and how much of a chin he has, and how much he wanted that win, and probably deserved it. But literally, like, if you're the referee, you would do the same thing. After watching him take that shot and seeing his fucking lip hanging off when you look up at him.
Remember, in law, there is a doctrine called assumption of risk.
Yeah.
And that's very hard. I went to a mercenary school years ago, and they used live bullets. And this guy, the cycle before me, the bullet hit a stone and went up and knocked the guy out. So he tried to sue, and they just threw that out. So it's very difficult to win those. Yeah, gee, you're an MMA fighter. You got your lip cut. Jeez. Cry me a river. I mean, it would just, you know, and you may have a point. I mean, I'd have to think of it.
You know what it reminded me of is they had a fight down in Iowa that I went to when I was sponsoring the XCF or whatever they called themselves, extreme cage fighting people, and they had they had this big coliseum rented out, and they had a couple UFC fighters, ex-UFC fighters. Josh Neer was on the card, and they had this one local kid, Tom Aarons. He was fighting one of the other UFC veterans. I forget his name. But in every round, this kid was getting caught in a submission. But he was winning the rest of the rounds. But this guy from the UFC would catch him in a triangle choke or an arm bar, and this kid would get through the round somehow. And so the third round comes, last round, and it comes down to the last 10 seconds of the entire fight. And this kid, Tommy's beating his ass. You know, he's doing well again. And then gets caught in the fucking triangle choke. And the announcer, for whatever reason, I don't know why they did that. I've never seen it in another event, but they were counting down the last 10 seconds on the microphone so the whole crowd could hear. So sure enough, dude gets this triangle choke in the last 10 seconds, and as he's counting down to 1, dude passes out. Out cold.
Oh, wow.
Who's been winning the fight. So he was like the hero of the night in losing. Because he just tapped out. I mean, he didn't tap out. That's the thing. He just passed out. But last second of the fight, it was called, literally. As the guy was going down to 1. Kid passed out.
Well, just like Magic Taylor, right?
Yeah. So that's exactly the way I felt with Overeem. You could not blame that dude that stopped the fight when the dude passed out. You can't blame a referee who sees the dude's lip falling off for stopping it too early, even if there is 1 second left. You know, I think there's 4 seconds left.
Yeah, well, I don't think there was too much controversy about that. I think Overeem, you know, jumped up and thought he could have kept going, but I mean, he's just a warrior. But I don't think there was much outrage at all. You know, from anything I've read online about it, there was no groundswell of complaints. I think the fight was stopped. But I'd like to see a rematch, maybe.
Yeah.
But I guess it's going to be Francis Ngannou taking on, what is his name now?
Rosenstruck.
The one Rosenstruck. Yeah, I guess it's Ngannou, and I think Ngannou will put him in his hip pocket.
Probably.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Probably. He's a tough guy.
Because we didn't see a whole lot. He may have won 1 round, but I just thought Overeem was controlling everything.
Right. Well, we got a lot to look forward to this year. 2020.
Yes, sir.
We're going to have 2020 vision.
Exciting. Yes, sir, bud.
And we're going to try to get some more guests this year. We're going to try to watch more fights. That's my New Year's resolution. Watch more fights. It's a pretty easy one if you break it down. So, we'll have better shows if I watch more fights. But anyway, yeah.
That'll be the plan.
All
right, guys.
Next week.
We'll see you next week.
Happy New Year, gentlemen, and we'll be talking again soon.
Yes, sir. Adios.
Later.